Joining me now right here on set in living color, John Carney, Breitbart Finance and Economics editor, co-author of the daily Breitbart Business Digest, Brian Brenberg, my friend, co-host of the Big Money Show right here on fabulous Fox Business, and the great Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business senior correspondent, author of Go Woke, Go Broke.
Ooh.
John Carney, did I get that wrong? No, we got it right.
I was just going to say, it's almost a segue into what's going on.
I know,
today.
Go Woke, Go Broke. I know. Yeah, I know, if history is any guide. John Carney, I basically just say the Fed bungled everything. Absolutely everything. Now, you were the author of this, and you've been no Fed fan. I guess, do I have to resurrect Oliver Cromwell again in the name of God go? That was what he told the Parliament in 1760-something. Anyway, John, go ahead, because you've been on this.
Yeah, look, the Fed completely misread where inflation's going to go, and they're admitting it tacitly in these projections. They are right now saying inflation will be 2.5% at the end of next year, and it won't get down to 2.1% until the end of the following year. 2027, they're talking about getting down to 2026 down to 2.1%. So what they're telling us is where they thought we'd be at the end of this year isn't going to happen until next year, and then that's not going to happen until the year after that. So inflation is with us for longer. The September cut was a mistake. They should have never done it. Frankly, I think Jerome Powell should resign. This is an admission of failure on his part. The market, what we saw today is the market has lost confidence in the Fed. It does not believe that the Fed has inflation under control. And yet Powell insists they do have it under control. In fact, he almost insanely says, things are going according to plan. Look, Jerome, they're not going according to plan. We can see where you thought we'd be. We're not there, and now you tell us we're never getting there.
You know, and as I said to Edward Lawrence, who's a very good reporter, I hope he did not take it back. I don't know what Powell's message is. He's not speaking to middle-class Americans. And so you basically agree with Oliver Cromwell, okay? I admit the subject matter was somewhat different, but, you know, in the name of God, go. I mean, Powell has outlived his time, and a new president like Trump should be able to put a new man at the Fed. Now, Brian Brenberg, I want to get your take, because you also have on the other side, it's not all monetary, it shouldn't be.
Sure.
You know, you've got all these free-spending Democrats, Chuck Schumer and company, want a big, fat end-of-year spending bill, which is wrong. They want to add a couple of $100 billion to state and local Social Security benefits, which is wrong. And, you know, I hate to say it, but the administration does not yet have a clear strategy regarding their tax cuts and their spending cuts and the border and when.
Yeah, good time to get one, right? I mean, there's a silver lining in all of this, okay? So the Fed has failed. Everybody can see it. The premium now is on some competent fiscal leadership. That means on this continuing resolution, I'm with you on this. Don't do it till next year. Do the smallest thing you can to punt into the new year, get it off the table, get your new Senate in place.
Was it 12 pages you told me
I want 20.
Show?
I think Vivek said we can do this in 20 pages.
Not 3,000. Not 3,000.
Get it to January of next year. Exactly. Not whatever the thousands it is. And then, gosh, we've got to get the tax cut and the regulation piece right. Because if we're going to lick inflation, it's not going to be because of Jay Powell. It's not going to be because of the Fed. It's not their interest rate policy. It's productivity. It's growth. It's getting an economy roaring again, putting money in people's pockets. The stuff he doesn't get and he doesn't know how to speak to are the things people care about. And that's going to have to be a fiscal deal. So if you're in D.C. and you're not the Fed, time to get it together right now.
Charlie, it looks confusing. A week or two ago.
There's never one reason for anything.
Yeah, but I mean, just think of it. Look, Trump is on honeymoon. It's no question. He has very good popularity. And his policies were very clear during the campaign, okay? Yeah. But the implementation, we're now getting into the stage where the real world impinges on the promises. And the implementation, I'm not saying it won't work. It may work. I've been in touch with a lot of senior people on the Hill and the administration. But they're going to have to make hard and fast decisions on all these fronts. They've got to do it pretty fast.
I mean, Trump was always going to be volatile. The market was always going to be volatile. Tax cuts versus tariffs, that's a recipe for volatility. I will say this. I'm looking at it a little differently. Inflation rate. Is that what now? 2.5, did he say?
But it's running, core inflation is, yes, 3.
Came down below 3.
Services 4.
By the way,
services 4.
I am no fan of Jerome Powell. He's almost immaterial and should be right now. The inflation rate is coming down. It's going to come down some more. That said, wages have never caught up to where prices are.
Right.
How do you change that? Well, I have to say, as much as you got to admire Donald Trump for his comeback, for surviving assassin attempts, lawfare, I think he's missing a big opportunity politically. He was up yesterday talking about suing the Des Moines Register. They could be, listen, for all I know, the greatest fraud ever came with that poll.
Doesn't put money in blue-collar pockets.
I'm telling you, he should have been talking
right?
to, yes, he should have been talking to yesterday. He's speaking yesterday to,
Yes.
Vivek and Elon are going to take $1 trillion out by the end of the year. And by the way, we're going to cut taxes. And by the way, regulations are going to come down.
You should keep saying
And by
that.
the way, this is happening. And by the way, we know blue-collar people are hurting. And I guarantee we would not see this type. And he could say, listen, Jerome Powell, whatever he does, he does. I'm not Joe Biden.
He's a little off. It's an interesting point. He's a little off message. You know what's happened?
It's a lot.
Yeah, but hang on. It's because the Congress, the Republicans, they haven't quite taken over yet. Okay, that's coming January 3rd.
That's one issue.
But they are sort of throwing sand in the gears, okay? They want to wait to do this. They want to wait to do that.
Republicans are doing that?
Yes. What you want to see, here's my take. It's an interesting.
But Larry, he's got the bully pulpit.
Well,
if Mitch McConnell doesn't want to bring it, take it to him.
He's got to say to Mr. Thune, who I think is a very capable man, okay, and Mike Johnson, another capable, he's got to say, this is what I want. I want tax cuts out of the gate. I want border security out of the gate. I want a big fat reconciliation bill, and I want you to deliver it to me by the spring. Whether it's 100 days or 120 days or 131, this is what I want. He has to say that. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, of course. It's exactly what I'm saying.
This.
But if you were in there, you would be saying it.
I would be.
The other thing
I was in there once, and I used to say it.
When you were in there, you were saying it. I would say this, and we're just going to have to accept a level of volatility in the markets going forward.
Well, yeah.
I think listen, I'm a journalist. I like freaking out over headlines and saying, this
What
is
would we
big.
do without it?
What would we do? We wouldn't have a TV show if we didn't do that.
What was the final? Was it
down
1,100 points?
But I'm just telling you, 1,100 on 40,000 ain't like Armageddon here. And tomorrow something's going to come back, and we're going to talk about how retail sales are up or down, something better, and the markets are going to get better. Just for the average viewer
10
out
straight
there,
days. Can I get a little 10 straight days?
Maybe it's a buying opportunity. I don't know. I'm not saying buy, by the way.
Here's the thing about 10 straight days. Charlie's right. The percentage change is about 5%, 6%. Yeah. Okay. Some of these things are correcting, though. NVIDIA's down over 10%.
Sure. Maybe it's profit taken at the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe there's a better Cinderella movie coming out. I don't know. But the reason is, when you see these headlines tomorrow, or it's already online, right? Dow's down 10 straight days, first time since 1974. Yeah. 1974, not a year I wish to remember.
Oh, neither me. My father was out of work, and we had the New York City financial crisis.
I might add, I was working at the New York Fed in 1974.
Thank you for putting my father out of work.
And I was in open market operations, and I was making about $12,500 a year. So, but apart from my own problematic personal story, Nixon was impeached in 1974. Yeah. America was in a deep recession in 1974. The inflation rate was well into double digits in 1974, and the stock market was crashing in 1974. So I'm just saying, I hate to see a headline celebrate a year like 1974.
Right. Well, so one that can shake consumer confidence, because when people see that the stock market is going down, all the surveys that ask people, even people who don't own stocks, know that the stock market is a predictor of what's going to happen in the economy, and they care about what's happening. So this is very bad news for consumer confidence. Also, I think that
Didn't you do a piece, I don't mean to interrupt, but
yes.
Something like 65% of Americans follow the stock market
Absolutely.
very 65%. Closely. That's a big number.
of Americans say that it matters to them personally.
But
not just that it matters to America.
That's a big number.
Yeah, but the market was up through Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's reign of error.
Not adjusted for inflation, by the way. It was barely up.
Okay.
Just me, Charlie.
It was, we had a nice rally. We had a nice rally, yet average people still voted for Trump.
Well, and here's the thing that really
don't take too much out of
Sure,
this.
but here's the thing that I think really frightens me. The Fed's projection for where inflation is going is higher next year than the end of this year.
So why are they cutting rates?
Exactly. They should not be cutting rates if they're projecting higher inflation.
Professor, if you say inflation tomorrow is going to be higher than it is today, why are you cutting interest rates and pumping money in?
They're cutting interest rates because they said they were going to cut interest rates. That's not their job. Okay, look. This is a moment for new economic leadership. The
Yes,
past
there you
4
go.
years
There
have
you
been
go. There you
dominated
go.
by the Fed. It's time for someone else to step in, and we know who that is, and say the new priority is growth, lower taxes, lower prices, and an economy you can work
All
in.
true,
and
but-
America will say amen.
Brian, why did he cut taxes? Because he doesn't want to get fired by Trump.
Or cut rates, you mean, yeah.
Why did he cut taxes?
Powell
Excuse
didn't
me,
cut
wait,
taxes.
cut rates?
Stop. Why did he cut rates?
No,
today?
wait a second.
was all
Hold on
Trump.
a second.
This was all kiss
Hold
up
on
to
a second.
Trump.
John Carney's
Absolutely.
article.
You agree with me.
Wait.
No, my reporting actually shows.
Is it right? John Carney's report. Here, you say what
Sure,
you're
my
reporting.
reporting actually shows that Donald Trump's economic team is very worried about inflation.
Right.
They do not want the Fed cutting right now.
Right.
This is very different than what people expected.
Trump saying? What is
thought.
Trump saying?
I'm telling you what people very close to Donald Trump are saying,
It's very
and they
important.
speak to the president. And what they say is they are very worried about inflation. They know that tanked Biden's presidency. They don't want inflation. They don't want a
There
Fed
is
cutting
no
into
way that
inflation
Trump
rising.
did not want 25 points.
I don't think he did.
We
But
don't know that.
if
I
we-
mean,
we
you
wouldn't know
if-
that.
If he has a hangover, if he has a Biden inflation hangover,
likes low
next
rates,
year,
he said it.
Not all the time, Charlie. Trust me, he doesn't always.
Really? He almost fired the guy 5 years ago.
Well, he probably should.
Because they shouldn't have been raising or they shouldn't have been raising 5 years ago, and now they shouldn't be cutting.
I don't
Jerome
mind.
Powell's Fed is
I'll
wrong.
go back to Brian. There's a supply side solution to it, not a demand side, not spending all the taxpayers' money. Lower tax rates for individuals and corporations, which Trump would like to do as fast as possible. That will create more goods on the market, goods and services, and that will bring the inflation rate down without causing us to go into a recession. It's not that hard.
Only sustainable
It's a
thing.
growth
it's
strategy.
the only thing that will bring inflation
And
down.
it's what helped Trump win. Remember,
Nothing else will do it.
the economy was about growth and inflation and take-home pay. People have been clobbered, Charlie, because prices went up over 20%, and they're, as you said earlier, prices outpaced wages,
Listen,
and they never forgot.
Inflation, let's be real clear here. Inflation is down. Where we have the problem.
Well, that's the way, like, economists measure inflation.
No.
That's not grocery store
But be
inflation.
right. Be right about it.
That's not car
Well,
prices.
here's why. Here's
That's
why.
not insurance
Here's why it
prices.
matters. Because I'm giving you the Main Street version.
I'm
here.
giving you the
no,
Main Street.
If you
You're
get
giving me the
no,
Harvard,
There's
Yale,
only one
Princeton.
Main Street.
I went to the University of Missouri. Journalism school of all places. But just so you know, inflation is down. What we have to do is get wages up. We have to get the supply side going. That is a different story. And by the way,
It's the best thing he's ever said.
By the way,
it's the best,
it's
his finest
easier.
moment.
Well done. Oh, thank
and
you.
it comes at the end of the segment, but it's okay. I like it.
You know inflation's down,
It's
right?
okay.
The rate of inflation.
Thank you, John Maynard. John Maynard, Nobel Prize. Anyway, we got to get out. It's
In the
very
long
good.
run, we're all dead.
Charlie Gasparino, John Carney, Brian Brenberg. You're all fabulous.